students that are willing to take those risks and to get a problem wrong, but then dig into that problem and try to figure out where mistakes were made, are going to be so much further ahead of those students that aren't willing to make the mistake, that are afraid to take that risk. So I'd rather have students come in, attempt something, and even if they attempt it and it doesn't go well, then you still have that starting point to say, okay, let's try, here's where you're at, let's see how we take this to move forward. Students that are involved in whatever athletic it is that they're involved, in my case, students that are involved in soccer, through that, there are a lot of different short life lessons that are learned through the activity. One of the ones that we have within our team is that, to be the best, you have to outwork the best. So within that is this work ethic idea that if we want to improve in something, whatever that something is, it's going to take a considerable amount of work to get there. So relating that to school, as students are in class, they might not get it initially, depending on the concept, but through that work ethic and continuing to strive towards bettering themselves and an understanding of the content, that's how the athletics would then help them to do better in school. That idea that we have that we're trying to work in this year is just that idea of fail harder. That you're not going to improve if you're not taking those risks, if you're not challenging yourself that way. So if all you're doing, for example in the classroom, if all you're doing in the classroom is getting questions right that you already know how to do, you're not then growing. You're staying the same. So it's not the score on the test that defines their success, but them overcoming that barrier to say that by working on this, I'm then able to improve. So they're making that connection. I would consider that them making that connection to success, even if that score isn't quite where they want it to be. Because then they're learning that through that process, eventually they can get where they want to be. We want players in practice to be taking realistic shots. If all they're doing in practice is taking shots and they're making every single shot, then they're not putting themselves in a position where they're taking a shot that would actually come up in a game. So we want them to be willing to take those risks on the field, because then that's how they're going to improve. And then the same thing applies in the classroom. We want those students in our classroom to take those risks, to make those mistakes, but then at the same time, if they make those mistakes, to go back and figure out what it was that they made that mistake with, so then they can continue to improve. That's how you become a successful student.